Hi. I guess we're started. My name is Christopher Harrison. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you happen to be. This is Web Wednesday, the show where I bring on some fantastic people to talk about different web dev related things. And sometimes I have to look long and far to go find fantastic people. But this time I was able to look actually just within my team and find Jen again, who is 100% a fantastic person. Although she does live out in Boston, which is also home to Molly Seidel, the current bronze medal holder in the Women's Olympics, for which I'm certainly thrilled, but that's not what we came here to talk about. We came here to bring on Jen and to talk about Lobe.ai. So thank you, Jen. Thanks for joining again.
Oh, thanks for inviting me. And I know the name Molly Seidel, and is she the one who runs with, like, she coaches people in groups to run all together?
She does that. She's also the world record holder for fastest 10K while wearing a turkey suit.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because why not?
Well, we do turkey trots around here. It's kind of a thing. I wonder if that's a Boston thing. I don't know. I mean, there are turkeys wandering around in my front yard, and I just, but that's something else.
Too funny. Cool. So, the last time that we had you on, Jen, you talked a little bit about your history, and you certainly have a different path into technology. That you have a PhD in medieval French literature, if I
Good
remember
memory. Good
correctly.
memory. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So I was absolutely positive that I was going to become a French teacher ever since I, went to France and fell in love with France when I was 16. Some of these experiences you just never recover from. And I distinctly remember visiting Chartres Cathedral, which is in the middle of France. And it's in the flat plain, and there's this gorgeous cathedral that just rises out of nothingness. And I'm not religious at all, but I went into this place and had spiritual experience, as we used to say back home. And I really was fascinated by medieval culture, medieval things, French medieval age of culture. So I just kind of decided to go for it and went ahead and specialized in that all the way through undergrad and master's, and then PhD. My specialty is 13th century Old French prose romance. There's an awful lot of it. None of it is great quality, but it was really popular. It was like a medieval bestseller. So you wind up reading what's the equivalent of a soap opera. And people loved it. And it's all about, King Arthur and all the cyclical romances of King Arthur's court, all the knights wandering around, and, they do this and that adventure. They come back, they go back again. It's just like, it literally is a medieval soap opera.
So it's basically just the 13th century version of Harry Potter is what I'm hearing.
It's not even that good. It's more like As the World Turns, It really is. It's not. I think people were literally just bored, sitting around a fire, making up these stories and telling chapter after chapter after chapter.
Oh, that is so funny. And if I remember right, you did actually teach French for a bit, correct?
Yeah, I did. So I taught as an adjunct professor at Columbia. I taught French conversation. Yeah, just the trick with being an adjunct is it's quite hard to pay bills on that salary. So at about the year like 2000 or so, I just decided to go ahead and join the ranks of the tech, because that was the moment where the dot-com was kind of coming down, the dot-com boom was kind of coming down, and I just caught the tail end of it and got a bit lucky, and thought I would do technical writing, not that good at that. Thought I would do graphic design, I'm not that good at that. So it's all about, finding what you're not good at and kind of moving around until you find something that works for you. So yeah, it's been an interesting and eventful career.
Okay, I dig it. I dig it. Like everybody should have, like, that type of a career. Like I've like never made a secret out of the fact that I don't have a bachelor's. And if I was ever to go back and like rerun my life and actually get a degree, I would make sure that it would be a degree in something that's other than technology, just
Yeah.
because that rounded tech, and I find that, like, so many of the best technologists that I know have a degree in something other than technology.
Yes.
So
Well, right now I'm actually enrolled in this an online master's program at UMass Lowell, and it's in the education program. It's Department of Education, School of Education, for curriculum and instruction. And I got to meet a lot of amazing K-12 teachers, and what a privilege! These are the heroes, the heroines of this moment. They are struggling, and anything we can do to support our teachers, absolutely do it, because they're just amazing professionals. I was so impressed, and they go through a lot to educate those kids.
They certainly do, especially in today's day and age.
Yeah.
All right, so no segue possible, and this is usually the way that I tend to do things. Is that we'll have like a little bit of friendly banter. We'll hit some moment where it's like, okay, there's literally no natural segue back to what it was that we were talking about. Let's just hard left turn and start chatting about it. So so you came on today to talk about Lobeai. So let's start with the obvious question then. What is Lobeai?
Yeah, Lobeai is it's a product built by a small company that was acquired by Microsoft, and they're just doing their thing. And it's a really beautiful thing to see. They have a very beautiful app to create vision models. So if you have any need in your website or your mobile app for image inference, if you need to point your camera at something and have some kind of model telling you what that thing is, then this is the product for you. It's free. It's done locally. You can train everything up locally and then save your models locally, and it really works well. And right now, I think what they're doing is they're perfecting this experience of creating this nice image inference technique. And then later on, they're going to, expand what the product offers. The next thing I'm going to guess would be something like allowing bounding boxes with multiple object inference. That's might be the next thing that they'll focus on. I'm guessing, but there's a lot of really great things that they can do. So if you visit Lobe.ai, and why don't I just I'll just minimize this and just share. If you want to share my screen, we can just walk through their website. So I'm going to guess, give me a verbal signal if you're seeing my screen.
There you go. Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so they have on their website some very interesting use cases. It's not just, wandering around and pointing your phone at things and figuring out what they are. It's actually training custom models. So you can make a very specific use case, like in my garden right down there, I have about 5 different, very specific to New England type of plants. Maybe I want to just point my camera and figure out what exact cosma, zinnia, I think there's some tomato and some catnip down there, exactly what's in that garden. And you could, and if you're a farmer, you might have this extremely use case that you need to figure out exactly what disease is impacting your soybeans or something like that. You could go ahead and train up using your own images, a model, and then you would be able to give labels to your images that you collect. And then this product will help train up a model that you can use within a web app. So here's another example. If you want to, look for emotions, I'm trying to think of a use case that would be interesting.
I've heard, like, for emotion, I've heard different use cases for, like somebody who maybe struggles picking up facial cues, or sometimes for somebody who's vision impaired and is trying to get a little bit more sense of the room, so like a described audio.
There you go.
Yeah.
Maybe a comedian could use it, to figure out when that laugh track needs to happen, because people's deadpanning.
For me, it would be never, which is why I'm not a comedian.
Yeah, exactly. And then this is the kind of mask or no mask visualization. So that's an easy thing to understand. And this is looking at plants. So obviously they've trained a very specific model. Here's 1, 2, 3. But it really goes through on this homepage exactly how to go about training the model. And then it's very cool that it's free and private. So it's a desktop app, actually. So you're able to just have this thing residing on your machine, and then you use your own images and your own camera to collect any way you like. So I'll walk through a little bit the actual product, but I wanted to kind of look through it.
And I think that bears repeating, like, because you said it once before and you said it a second time, but I think it bears repeating like a third time, is the fact that you said it's free,
Yeah.
and that you're going to be running it locally. So you don't need like a cloud provider, that you get to keep all of the images. Like everything is just, it's there on your system.
Exactly. So the security is within your own computer. You don't have to share a thing. It's an interesting architectural choice to create a desktop app. I think some folks have asked whether it can be used on a Chromebook, and I think this is something that they're working on, because those things with those machines kind of tricky to download this type of application. So it's an interesting choice to make it a desktop app as opposed to a web app. But that's the choice that they made, I think, probably because of the architecture behind it. So it's just a really beautiful. I also find it a very beautiful user interface and very, very easy to use. So they have some project templates here, and this kind of talks about their roadmap going forward. So right now we have image classification. So you can label your image based on its content. And then the next thing indeed would be object detection. So here on my desk, I have, some plants, and I have, a glass, and here's my microphone, and it would be able to create these bounding boxes around it to identify what's available and what's all the different objects within one image. So that's really interesting, very useful. And then data classification. So here's where we get into textual data analysis. And this becomes quite interesting for, your business use cases. If you need to do some financial data analysis, or look at all of the hotel reviews that are coming through for your hotel, and just check, whether it's positive or negative. You could do some kind of classification around that, I'm guessing. So, but this is really cool to see that this is on the roadmap, because this is a product that I think will go far once they start offering a lot of different opportunities and options.
I dig it. And so the image classification versus object detection, I just want to make sure that I've got this right. So that image classification, it's almost sort of like a Boolean value, although obviously it could go beyond that. But it's going to look for something that's going to be true about the entire image. So like somebody is masked or they're not masked, or this plant is a tomato plant, or this plant is a zucchini, but it's not going to be able to go, oh, this is where the tomato is and this is where the zucchini is. That's where we're going to need like that object detection to be able to go with that next step.
Yeah, that's right. So here I have my my mouse pad and my mouse, and it has to be able to make a box around, this is the mouse pad and there's the mouse, and neither the twain shall meet. So yeah.
That makes sense.
Cool. Yeah. I've seen there's a product by Google that uses TensorFlow, what's it called? The Coral board. And it has a whole camera associated to the board, and it uses object detection to detect whether it sees in a video a car versus a truck coming down the highway. So it runs really, really fast, and it's able to watch a video. So there's a lot of useful use cases for this kind of object detection.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, so this is the way you go about using it. You label, train, and use, and it has this kind of circle that you're going to go ahead and train up on a certain group of images, and then that you labeled, and then you're going to test those images. You're going to test some new images against what you trained on, and then you can correct the model, and it'll learn as you go. So I'll show a little bit of how that all looks in the product. And very nice user interface. You can automatically train. Just set it to go, and it'll go. And then there's the opportunity to use your model, and this is what I really like. So I'm a web developer, but I really love applied machine learning. So I love the fact that you can take a model and input it into your web or mobile app, and even use it offline. That's the beauty of this thing. You can have that model, those model files residing right within your web or mobile app, and then you can do inference against it and use it offline. And that is fantastic. So you're not querying, any kind of API externally. You can use it, within your web app. The trick is those are pretty big files, so you have to. That's the trade-off. That's the trick. So.
Okay.
And so the model that would be running there, is that going to sit on the server, or is that going to sit on the client?
Sits on the client.
It's on the client. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we had a couple weeks back, we had Gant on, whom, if I remember right, you actually know him.
Yeah, he's a pal.
But he was on talking about TensorFlow JS and how you could actually use TensorFlow, but use that in the browser. For
Yeah.
Lobe, would you be using TensorFlow there as well, or is there a specific API or a different framework that it uses?
Yeah, it's actually using TensorFlow JS in the background, actually. So, and we'll see how you can export it right here within that format. Oh my gosh, the turkeys are literally walking. It's a turkey trot right now. So that was just, I just looked outside and there are giant birds, raptors or something. Anyway, yeah, so it's using, you're able to use TensorFlow JS, but there are other options too. You can use TensorFlow itself, which is, not the JavaScript port of it, but the actual SDK. You can use Onyx as well, which is really nice as another option. So instead of using TensorFlow, maybe you want to use Onyx, which does the same thing, but just a different way of doing it. So I'll show you how that all looks. And here's some examples that people have built: wildlife behavior, elephant or not. So that's the product.
Very cool.
Yeah. So why don't I stop sharing and we can, should I go ahead and show the thing in action?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, let me just open up this little desktop app called Lobe, and I'll just minimize my program. Oops, that was the wrong thing to do. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Okay, wrong button. Okay, here we go. All right, here is Lobe, a little desktop app that sits right on your computer. And I've been using it for various nefarious data sets. I have some weird collections. So you heard the story about me being a French teacher. I'm also a collector of a lot of strange and interesting objects. I have a collection of tarot cards. I did like 781 images of these. I wanted to see whether there's an iconography that could be picked up by the model. It was tricky because, see, this is the emperor. It's a person sitting on a chair with a sort of a bishop's hat type look. Mm-hmm. According to this one, and this one. And then, you show this image. Is it really like, what does it look like? Is it an emperor? But this one is quite different. So the iconography is just enough different that it kind of confused the model. So, but still it said that it predicted 99% of the images correctly and 1% incorrectly. Now, admittedly, that's a small data set. So there's only, 200 images of the emperor. And you notice what I'm doing is I've used my camera to train against the cards. I'm just showing a card to a camera and it's picking up the images.
I was actually going to highlight that part. Like I'm in no way, shape, or form an ML or AI person, but like that much I do know about training up a vision model, and it's something that I always I don't know if there's any like student hackers that are watching this or not, but it's something I always implore teams when they're putting together their hack project is if they are going to be doing something like that, is make sure that you're doing it from like a lot of different lighting and a lot of different angles, and then in particular try and do it in the lighting where you're going to do the demo, because it's so heartbreaking when you go to see a team's project that they've worked like all weekend and so hard building, and it winds up failing simply because the lighting is different or the background is different because they didn't give it enough variety. So, yeah. So
this is me just sitting. I think I was in another room. The lighting's pretty lousy. So, I mean, it's just a quick test. But so those are the labels, and then you can train. And, if I had my tarot cards, I could just hold it up to the camera and it would just, check to see what it's looking at. And then you can use it. So this is the use part. And these are the images. So you can actually test images right within Lobe to see, like, if I had a shot of tarot, I would just drop it in here, or I can use my camera and I would hold up the card and it would just test. Mm-hmm. Then this is the beauty of this thing, which is the export. So let's just pause here and figure out what we've got here. So we've got many different ways to export and to use your model. So there's Lobe Connect, which is you can host your model locally in Lobe, and it gives you a little URL on your local host. and then you can copy some code and use it against the predictions. There's only 4 possible predictions here. And you can use this, like you could run this in Postman. It's one way to do it. It's a very kind of interesting way. It's like, it's good for testing, but I can't imagine it would be super useful in production, my personal opinion. You need something that runs like not locally. So, and then there's a TensorFlow.js. You can use your model in a website. So I have done this with a lace making data set that I'll show you in a minute. So what you just do here is you just export. And it allows you to optimize or just export. And it's going to dump a whole bunch of files that basically looks like this. It gives you here's your TFGS example. So that's the example. Okay. Yeah. And then, go away, stop. Okay. And then there's an option of using a web app here, which sends you to this page, which I believe is on GitHub. And it's a little React app that they've created. And I'll show you what this looks like in a minute. So this will take your files and you can pop it right into this React app and use it.
Awesome. I'm laughing because the last commit was from Bill Barnes. He's a friend of mine. We actually used to work together on our last team.
TypeScript tweaks looks like.
Yeah, and that's also fitting. Bill is a huge TypeScript person.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
And the other thing that you can use, there's different ways of exporting. So you can use it with TensorFlow, straight up, the regular TensorFlow, not TensorFlow.js, but you can use this within your Python app. That's very useful. You can use it with Onyx. This is not Onyx.js, which is the Onyx runtime. So this would work in universal apps, which I believe is more of a .NET scenario. I'm a JavaScript person, so I would pick the TensorFlow.js one.
Yeah, I'm same thing. I'm a web developer, so
yep.
I don't know much for doing desktop apps these days.
Yeah, Core ML you could use in your iOS app, very specific for iOS. And then here's TensorFlow Lite. Now, TensorFlow Lite is a thing of beauty and a joy forever because you can use it for Android and iOS apps and IoT applications because it's small. It just optimizes your model and it quantizes it, as I remember. I haven't used it for a little while, but you can use this in cross-platform mobile apps, and that's a beautiful thing. So that's something to just kind of watch for. And then there's some starter projects that they give you. They give you this REST server that you can try. You can just fire it right up, and that'll run everything locally. The React web app is what I just mentioned. And then there's an iOS option and an Android option that you can try as well. I'm not set up to do iOS or Android development anymore, which is sad because I love mobile apps, but that's just the way that cookie crumbled.
Okay.
So, yeah, so...
how do you get all of the images into Lobe?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different ways. So this is my extremely famous and extremely fabulous cheese data set, which I've done. I've used for at least 5 years for demos.
It's very cheesy.
It's extremely cheesy, and it's just it's beautiful. I love it. So it turns out there are 6 different kinds of cheese. I did my research. So there's bloomy, which has that kind of external mold, that delicious mold. Blue, fresh cheese, which is like burrata or mozzarella. Hard cheese, like, let me see if I can scroll down for any hard cheese, like
a Parmesan.
Yeah, something you could grate.
Okay.
Let's see
So great cheese is what you're saying.
Great cheese, yes. Semi-soft cheese.
It's going to be nothing but dad jokes from here on out. So.
Okay, great, awesome. Well, I'm down. Semi-soft cheese can be also confused with bloomy a little bit. It's like the camembert.
Mm-hmm.
And then washed rind. So washed rind is there's a special way of preparing it. It's like they wash it in a brine.
Mm.
Yeah, those are the stinky cheeses that
okay.
talks about. But to answer your question, so what I did this in 2 ways. So you can see these images are quite different. And I was sneaky, and I went onto Firefox, I believe, and there is a way to export. There's also some browser extensions you can use to like search for cheese images, and then you can scrape the entire image data set and just download it all offline. onto your local. So that's one way to do it. There's some browser extensions that can help you with that stuff, but I think I got at least 1,000 images, if not more, from that technique.
Okay.
But this one is, I actually took a video on my iPhone. You can see I have a plate. So this is done in my kitchen a long time ago. And I used, I used a little utility in JavaScript to break up the images from those files. I have this documented somewhere, but I did this manually. So all of this work, the point of this discussion is that all of this work Lobe, prevents you from having to do, because you don't have to go and manually break up the frames out of your video. Fun fact, some of these videos, I did go to my local cheese shop, Wazix, and I like scanned the cheese, and I'm like, I work for Microsoft and I'm working on a machine learning model, and I need to video your cheese. And the guy was like, okay, honey, whatever. But the import here, so here's where you would import that. You'd import images from your camera. That would be that scrape. Or a structured folder of images. That's when you have this big data set of busted up images. Or, and this is the really nice thing, you can use your camera. And I could take something like this, cheese,
cheese,
and start taping. And it would go down, and a whole bunch of, actually this camera, I would hold it down, sorry. Yeah, hold it down. And that took a whole bunch. So now I have 22 unlabeled cheeses. And
it was just taking the pictures and you were just like rotating.
Yeah. So it's like a quick snap. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So this isn't breaking up your video, it's a quick snap. Yeah, you just hold it down. So I would go and label this as this is bloomy cheese. So I could actually, I think I can select all of these and label them as bloomy. There we go. Now they're all labeled, and I have more bloomy cheesies. So that's that. And that is great because you can, what I've done also is I attached different cameras. So this just came from my my own camera, but you could have a little external camera, and then you could, this is what I did for my lace making data set. You can just like go to your collection of lace and really do a good, image capture, nice and close. Because some of, for lace making, stop training. For lace making, which I'll show you here, so I have this collection of antique lace. These are all framed up and on my wall. So I had to kind of like take them off the wall and get a camera and like finagle it over to take pictures. So, and it needs to be quite detailed because, this is complicated stuff. But it wound up making quite a decent model, actually. So there's 1,000 images of my lace collection. And so this is Coraline lace. And so the idea was if I was in a museum and I needed to catalog some of my collection, then I could take some images and then it would help me categorize some of my other, images that I might not need to do manually. So image collection, categorization in museums is a huge amount of labor and cost. So these kind of processes using machine learning can actually help with that stuff. And that's really, really cool. I was talking to a museum of perfume bottles, which is cool. And
I would have never guessed that there's a museum of perfume bottles.
Yeah, they're amazing. And I showed them this and they're like, oh my gosh, what they needed to do is isolate each perfume bottle and then just, walk around and then categorize them. These are from Avon and these are from Chanel and these are from Gucci or whatever, and then they can figure out, maybe they could get more granular. This is the 1997 bottle. This is the 2005. So really a lot. And then, the next time they get something added to the collection, they can just run it through the machine learning model and be cataloged and categorized. It's really nice.
I dig it.
Yeah. So those are some interesting data sets, the Terra one. So this one was used with the Maya mystery. And this is real tricky. You can see that there's some incorrect categorizations because this type of image is just, each one is just so different. It really, the model just had a difficult time picking up where the commonalities were. So these are Maya glyphs, and it's looking, so Muyal is this element here with the little dots around it. But so you can see how each of them is just so different. The model just got confused.
So like along those lines, like if I am going to train up a good model and I'm going to have success, like what should I be looking for, if you will, inside of the images? Like what's going to make a good model?
Yeah, great question. I think you hit on the points of lighting and making sure that you rotate, around it, which you can do with a smaller camera. You can get a good view of it.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I found that impacted my models was when everything is on a plate. Like the model starts thinking that things are only this type of cheese if it's on a green plate. So you have to watch context. Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Either everything's on the plate and there's no difference between the types, or you have to kind of, get a little bit creative.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also know that I saw that you had started training. Is there a, how long does it typically take to train one of these? Because a lot of times when people are hearing about having to train up a model, they're immediately thinking, multiple GPUs and clusters and real high-end systems. Now I'm assuming if I install this onto a potato, it's going to take a while for it to for it to actually train. But on a decent system, about is it going to take a long time? I know, trying to give it, it's going to take 30 seconds or it's going to take 20 minutes. Something like that I know is not going to be possible. But does it take a fair bit of time to train?
Not really, actually. It's really pretty quick. But then what it does is then it'll give you a basic model, and then it will go ahead and allow you to optimize it when you do this export. So that I have found that you can just have it continue to iterate and train and train and train and train and train. I believe what's going on in the background here might be transfer learning, and that speeds up the training. So there's some images that's already been trained on, and this is just a couple more layers in the training that are being added on.
Okay.
Yeah. So custom, but kind of not. Looks like I need to fix some of this up. So you see, it tried to use some of these images. It split my images up, and it's tried to figure out what this was, and it's wrong. So I'm going to say no. It's actually bloomy. So I'm going to correct it. Stop. Is it not bloomy? Oh well. It's getting confused. It's 100% confident that it's incorrect. Well, anyway, normally you can go ahead and fix this. So I'm doing something wrong, obviously. Oh,
that's right.
Okay. It just didn't refresh. Yeah, it just didn't refresh. Yeah. There we go.
Okay. Very cool.
So you retrain, you teach it better, and then you train it more, and eventually it gets pretty good. So yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Anyway, it's continuing to train. So what we could do at this point is try the Use tab.
Yeah.
To do the export. So normally what I would do, and this is also helpful, it says help me choose, because sometimes it's just I don't know. So I would go ahead and click export, and like I did before, and then it would just save to my desktop. But I've already actually done that because that does take a little bit of time to retrain it and re-export. So I'm going to go ahead and not do that. It really wants to stay, doesn't it? And I will show you how to use this. Okay. So the sample that's given, once you do that process of exporting, is it creates this little React app. And then you go, let's see, and the model you have right in here, this bit, I think, is that right? And then it goes into public or assets. Let me see. Oh, here's the model, sorry. This is what is exported out of Lobe. So all of these shards, there's quite a lot of data, and they're relatively big. And then it has a list of your labels and your model. That's what the model looks like. And you can see it's a graph model, and it's using TensorFlow.js converter. Nice that you don't have to do that stuff yourself in Python, because it does become kind of a hassle. Yeah, so it does, creates all of this for you, and that's really cool. And it's going to use this local file to create a web app. So if I could create a terminal. So So I just would say yarn start, I think. And it'll go ahead and start using React scripts. Why? Yeah, sure. Now this is interesting, and it does take a minute to, not a minute, but a little while to kind of start up. So I'm going to just make this a little bit smaller.
I just appreciated the fact that it gave you the option of just going to another random port, like, because one of the things that I find myself doing so frequently is I will start a dev process, and it'll take up port 3000, and I will close the window without stopping the process, so the process is still running in the background, so it's still taking up port 3000, and then I go to something else and I go to launch that. Now it's saying, hey, there's something already on 3000. It's because I forgot to close the window. So I appreciate the fact that it said, hey, here's another port. Let's just put it here for you.
Exactly.
So that way you don't need to go track down whatever it was that you did yesterday.
So I'm going to go ahead and show it this cheese. Let's see what it says. So it's still loading up that big model.
Oh, so this is actually the application doing that.
Yeah. So this is, and you see how it's blooming, and it knows it.
That is cool. So this is actually just running in the browser. It's running JavaScript. It's using your camera, and it's giving you those results right there.
The prediction, yeah, because what I did is I downloaded that React app, I dumped in the model that was exported, and it is correct. I'm not going to budge. It's like it was good there for a minute. But you can see how bloomy and wash drying gets confused a little bit. It's bloomy. You can tell it's good.
That's very cool.
So yeah, so that's
good, by the way. I'm now hungry.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm gonna have some. So that's the little React app, and it just allows you to use your camera, and it's just really useful. So this is all. I could also use this offline. It would totally work offline.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
How does the page itself look like? How does that React component look?
Let's see.
Like, is it easy for me to go in and modify it? Like, obviously, I need to know something about React.
Yeah, I had to modify. Let me think. I had to modify. The one thing I modified was this. So I had to do this. Go into the .tsx file, look for prediction, and it ships with a thumbs up, thumbs down model. So there's like nothing, thumb up or thumb down. That's the demo. But my cheese model has 6 labels, so I just had to change this. That's the only thing I changed. But okay. It looks like this. So if you are a React person, which I'm not, but you are, what do you think?
Sort of a React person. I appreciate that the fact that it's in TypeScript. Like, TypeScript all the things. Like, I'm such a huge proponent of TypeScript. So, but I mean, it looks
clean.
It looks pretty straightforward. Yeah.
It's probably using a bit of TensorFlow JS syntax. This kind of sort of predictions. You can see that from TensorFlow. Let me see what prediction entry looks like. So this is the confidence.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Source selector, obviously that's the camera. So that's that drop down I was kind of fighting with to get the right camera to show, because I don't know, I have a lot of cameras installed on this machine. I don't even know why. But that is a pretty simple app. So here's the TSX file for app itself, and this is just bootstrapping it up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Image selection, camera, static image prediction. That's it.
I dig it. So then I could incorporate that into a React app. If I remember, you had said that you had got this working with Vue.js as well. Is that?
Yes.
Look at that! I set you up perfectly for this.
Isn't that amazing? And do you admire my peacock colors? So I gave it cheese color, and then the blue is for the lace making. So I wrote an article, actually, maybe we can link it in the show notes, about how to use this in Vue. It took a bit of doing, but we got it working, because what I wanted to do is not do that camera. I wanted to make it more of a museum type of app, so I wanted an image uploader. So I used a little component that I found, import image uploader from Vue image upload resize, and then allowed myself to just kind of use that. So I was tinkering around. The way that this model is exported is it's done as a graph model. So you need to use TensorFlow load graph model, and here's where you need to understand the TensorFlow JS syntax a little bit. So you have to await, this is an asynchronous method. So you await the TensorFlow and you load up that model, and then you start your predictions. So you have to be a little bit careful, to make sure the experience is good, and wait for the model to load before you start trying to do any kind of inference. But it's pretty straightforward. This is a pretty easy app. I can just run it.
Yeah. And it is actually really nice that you can then run that on something other than React. So if you decide not to use React, that you could still go ahead and
yeah. I remember I had a teeny bit of problem with when I used the model in Vue. I had to go in and delete one line, and I went to Stack Overflow. What's going on? This weird error, and I had to delete one line out of the model file for whatever reason. I don't know if that bug has been fixed, but it'd be something to just be aware of. I documented it.
Okay.
So here is, imagine you're in a museum, you're in the textile collection of the MFA in Boston. So it's a fabulous department, and they're hiring. Anyway, so if I was, sitting there and I saw a piece of lace, I took a picture of it, and I would want to see if I could get a solid recommendation of exactly what kind of lace this is looking like. So this is going to go ahead and start trying to make a calculation. I don't know if you can see this. So it's calculating against the model. So it is deciding that this is Duchesse lace. It's actually Oniton, but Duchesse is so close, it's a good enough guess. That's a pretty decent guess. Yeah, so I kind of like this because it doesn't have that bounce, when you're just trying to be, deal with a camera.
Yeah.
It's just like, this is what it is. It is this thing. That's it. So.
One thing that's definitely worth highlighting here is when you hit the file explorer, like if this was running on a mobile app, when you hit that file explorer on a mobile app, well, one of the things, at least in Chrome on Android, and I assume iOS does the same, it will give you the option to explore your file system, but it will also give you the option to use your camera as well. So you don't have to take the picture and then open up the site and then upload it. Like, you can just streamline that process, that when you hit that and go to the file explorer, it will then just give you the option right there, which is really nice.
And it works, actually. I believe I tested this because I was all of my lace collection is in frames on the wall going down the stairs. So trying not to fall down the stairs, I was using this thing on my mobile and try to just take a picture and have it do inference. And that's kind of like a terrific use case for any collector or museum or anyone who's just trying to find, this is a thing, I want to know kind of what it is. So that's the beauty of image inference for museums and libraries and collections of all kinds. So it's
very cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Okay.
So,
and then you could bring that into Svelte or any of the other frameworks that you wanted to.
Yeah, definitely. It's not that much code. So you just get the image, and then you, step one, get the image, and then you load the model, start inference, and then do the prediction. So it's really not. This is where it gets a bit more code. You have to watch out to resize the image properly, I believe. Yeah, crop and resize, because if you're sending a huge image, it's not going to be able to figure out, which piece of that to look at.
Right.
That
makes sense.
Yeah. So then you've got a little bit more simple down here. This is just the prediction, and then you're just displaying the classes in the prediction. So with the percentage.
I'm watching the Twitch chat in the background, because one of the things I try and do during all of these is keep an eye on the chat, and if you hear me typing, it's because I'm answering chat. I'm not just
you're not emailing me
or anything. Yeah, I'm not doing email or anything like that. I'm replying in to different chat windows, and I actually, for whatever reason, my Twitch chat window was hidden behind something, so I hadn't seen it, and for at least the last, as best as I can tell, 20-30 minutes here, it's just been nothing but everybody talking in French. So we've just got a French raid that's going on inside
Oh,
of the Twitch chat. So yeah,
okay.
I no idea what anybody is saying, but yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. Well, if there are any, French museums who are interested in image inference, then hit me up. I'll come and visit, and we can see. This was an experiment. This is a kind of a hidden component that I was tinkering with. So you need to understand what type of model has been exported, and there's a really cool application called Netron that you can use to get an idea. I can see if I can find it. Where's Netron? Yeah, this guy.
Okay.
And you can kind of run your model through it, and it'll tell you whether it's a graph model or a layers model, in which case your code is going to be slightly different. This is another free piece of software that anyone who's doing applied machine learning badly needs. So, whoops, we're going to just not do that right now. But yeah, and this was a different model that I was just testing to see if I could make it work. And it was working, but I had to, the code was considerably different. Tinkering with a local API. Yes, okay, so here is where, remember how you can run your local API from Lobe? If you're running Lobe and you start that process, here's where I think I was trying to make it work. I'm not sure it actually worked, but
okay.
Yeah. So yeah, so I settled on using the graph type of model, and just went from there. Yeah, and you can see the files are all in public, models. Oh, I have several. Okay, so there's the cheese one. That's what this looks like with all those shards.
Mm-hmm.
And the model and your signature, and then flowers and lace. The lace one is the one that's used as your example. And then this is like a lot of files. Model is here.
Roughly how big is that model?
Let's see. Good question. Well, it's not that big. The problem is the shards. So the model is 135K, but look at all that, So this is where we get into a bit of trouble, right?
Yeah.
And this is why people
doing
like
some
their
real
models.
quick math. That's going to be 100 megs. That's a fair bit.
Yeah, that's a fair bit. So trade-off. That's why people love to have the cloud offering. And if you use Custom Vision AI, which is another Microsoft product, it has a lovely way to just make an endpoint, and then you just query it. You just pass it an image, and it'll come back and give you that prediction. So that works.
Okay.
So yeah, cool.
Neat. Okay.
But that is that's long.
Okay. And if I remember right, there was also you also had options to export that out as a web service as well. Or am I misremembering?
Yeah, that was the local Lobe Connect,
Okay.
and that's that little local host. Oh, why are you doing this?
Okay.
Stop.
We need to figure out how to get that to work with like Azure Functions, so that way we could also get that like server side with like Azure Static Web Apps or something like that.
Yeah.
We should figure that out.
All right, just export, whatever, just make it happy. There we go. Yeah, so but it's a really useful little free tool to try. I think personally, and you agree with me, I'm sure, is it'll be great for hackathons, right?
Yes. Yeah. 100%. 100%. Still trying to. Sorry, my brain is just stuck on this. I'm just like trying to, because I took 4 years of French in high school, so it's bonjour, comment allez-vous, je m'appelle Christopher, ma grand-mère est flambée et le singe est disparu. And that's about the extent of my French, and I'm like sort of kidding. I speak like menu French, and like I can like. I can quite frequently at least get the context of what's being said. And so I'm like going through the chat window here and just trying to figure out what it is that's being said. Hopefully I think it's nice things. I hope it's nice things. So
Le singe a disparu. Here's the monkey.
So
le truc et travail des petits affaires. Ouais.
Maybe that's what we could do. We could just start the stream over again. You just present it in French.
Bon, si vous avez des questions, vous me demandez. Oh, this is cute. Actually, I like this because it's kind of slangy. Tu lui balances des images. like throw it some image and put your tags in, and it gives you an AI model. And that's basically what we've been talking about for the last hour. I love it.
That's awesome. That's
Pourquoi du
great.
fromage? Parce que fromage parce que. Et en plus, c'est du vin lancé. Vous voyez? Et moi, je vais le manger. Je ne vais pas partager.
So I'll get you out of here on this, so that way you can, go enjoy some cheese. Where can people learn more about Lobe?
Well, all you have to do is go to Lobe.ai and just download it, and give it a try. It's free. It's really easy. It has a beautiful interface, actually, and I think it's a terrific tool to get your feet wet in machine learning and AI.
Does it install onto Mac as well, or is it Windows only?
I'm on a Mac right now.
Okay,
Yep.
that answers that question. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know if they're gonna have a mobile version of the site?
You mean like a web instead of a desktop app on mobile?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I know that teachers have been asking, but it's just a huge re-architecture of the entire product. So I wonder, I think that it would be better in a way to move towards allowing people to use an endpoint. That would be, if anyone asked me about a product, nobody's asking me, but I would work on that and then maybe move towards a web interface. That would be interesting. Yeah. But if you want to try such a thing, try Custom Vision AI. That's very nice. So what's the website on that Custom Vision AI? I think, let's see my calendar.
Yeah, two Microsoft people trying to remember. Yeah, it's just Custom Vision AI. Yep.
Yep,
You were right.
Internet connection slow as molasses. But
We
yeah,
should
so
know that off the top of our heads.
yeah, so that's a very nice and slightly more mature product. But this is very, very specialized, and very, very useful. So.
Yeah, I really dig it. Perfect. Well, Jen, thank you so much for coming on, walking us through Lobeai, making us all hungry by showing us cheese, entertaining us with French. I mean, you did it all. So thank you so much for coming on today. Greatly
Now
appreciate it.
I'm going to enjoy the balancé. Take a taste something.
And that is Web Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in. We're here every week chatting about different web things. Sometimes cheese and sometimes not cheese. So yeah, come on by. We are off next week, but the following week, Chloe Condon is going to be on to chat about how to get into becoming a computer geek. So yeah, so definitely come check us out. So thank you.
Merci.
Bye.
Ciao.
Au revoir.